curveball time. Take it back in time. We're going to take it back to 1997. Before some of you were born. Before some of you were middle-aged. Before some of you lost your virginity. Before the drive-by truckers had ever toured. And we were just dying to tour. We didn't know better. It was all we could think about. We'd wake up in the morning and we'd think about touring. We'd go to bed at night wishing we were on somebody's floor next to their litter box, smelling cat shit and drunk and glorious and young, and we were already not young. But it didn't matter. We were still thinking about it. And it was a very different landscape in those days. The internet hadn't been invented yet. And there were bands roaming around the land with names like Starroom Boys and Lily Bandits, Big Back 40. The last two of whom were based out of Columbus, Ohio, where probably Lydia was in school. Maybe, I don't know. But nonetheless, members of those two bands are backstage, and I just had to do this song for them. So I want to send this song out to the Lily Bandits and Big Back 40 and the 90s music scene from Columbus, Ohio, that tried their best to find us an audience. We're still trying in Columbus, Ohio. And we were dying to tour, but we didn't have a vehicle to tour in because all we owned was a 1978 Plymouth Voyager that had been owned by about 5 bands before us. And I think the third band named it the Huffer. And I'm a crazy man, and I've done some really fucked up, stupid shit in my life, but I've never set out on a 2,000-mile journey in something called the Huffer. That other band I was talking about, they were called the Starroom Boys, and they were based in Athens, Georgia, and they were fucking amazing. They were one of those amazing bands that just didn't find their audience in time. And they were finishing up their first record, and they were dying to hit the road too. And we came up with this game plan one afternoon at the Manhattan over happy hour, over drinks. Dave had friends, he'd grown up in Chicago and he had friends up there, and he was convinced he could book a tour. And he said, Patterson, we're going to go up there and it's going to be great. They're going to love us. They're going to love you with your southern accent. And so he put together this tour, and we shared a pedal steel player back then, and their drummer couldn't tour, and so our drummer was willing to play in both bands. It was Matt Lane, who's also here tonight. The great Matt Lane of the Lanes and the Possibilities. And we came up with this idea because the Starroom Boys owned a van, and they had bought a late model Dodge Ram with First United Baptist Church painted on the door, which Dave took as a sign to mean that they would never be pulled over by the police. And so we could fit all of our gear and most of our members in that one van if we could find one more vehicle to go out in. And so we're looking around at what we've got to drive, and everybody's car is old and condemned except Cooley had just married Ansley, and she had a late model monster protege, and she was willing to loan us for a couple of weeks to go out on this adventure. So me and Adam Howell, our bass player, who was 6'6", hitched a ride up to Durham, North Carolina, where they were living, and we were going to go out on that tour, which was going to start in Columbus, Ohio. And Cooley did the math, and he figured out that Durham to Columbus, Ohio was about 6 hours. And about
Cooley got his first F in math in 5th grade.
So about 6.5 hours into that drive, we're somewhere in southern West Virginia. And I realize we're running really, really late for our show. And that's when it starts pouring down rain. And I mean God's holy hellfire wrath opening up on those twisty interstate roads wandering through the mountains of West Virginia. And it was pouring down rain in sheets, and he's driving that motor monster protege, and Adam, all 6'6" of him, is wedged into the front seat with his knees up against his chin, and I'm packed back there in the back seat with my knees up against my chin, and every time an 18-wheeler would pass us on the left lane, that monster protege would hydroplane just enough to make my asshole do that. And I was terrified, and I found a piece of paper, and I found a pen. And I wrote this first verse in the back seat of that car. 80 miles an hour in the West Virginia rain, and the waiting in Columbus, and the real thing we found. Cooley's at the wheel, Adam's at the brake, and I'm jammed in the back seat with me in the back seat with me. In the backseat with my head between my knees. Wind up in West Virginia. Mountain roads and onto the stage, and Little Brothers, and we played our set for the 17 people who paid a cover to get in. We finished our set, we walked backstage, and there were our hosts for the night, a band called the Lily Bandits, a great band. And they're all backstage laying down, puking into garbage cans and coolers because one of them had a kid in daycare who'd come home with one of those kindergarten diseases.
But by God, they were professionals.
And as it so happens, we were spending the night with the Lily Bandits at their house with the kids and the kindergarten disease. And we stayed up all night probably drinking and smoking dope in their basement. And the next day we set out for Chicago, where we pulled about 40 people. Things were looking up at the Empty Bottle. It was a good time. And we raised hell, and we woke up the next morning with a kindergarten disease starting to wind its way through that Dodge Ram First United Baptist van. And that was the day that we had to drive to Lansing, Michigan from Chicago. And that's also the day that the skies opened up, not with rain, but with snow and freezing rain, with sleet. And it was laying a layer of ice upon Lake Erie, and we're driving down, or whatever fucking lake it is right there, Lake Michigan, and we're driving there, and the wind's picking up that ice, and it's laying it on the interstate, and that monster protege is slipping and sliding, and I'm scared fucking to death. And we get to Lansing, Michigan, and there's 10 feet of snow on the ground, and I'm thinking nobody's gonna show up tonight. But it's Lansing, Michigan. What the fuck else you gonna do? It's like that all the time. So the place was packed out. We sold out. We sold tons of merch, and I got laid, and it was a great time. And I woke up the next morning in Lansing, Michigan with the kindergarten disease. And that was the day we were supposed to drive from Lansing, Michigan to Buffalo, New York. All right, folks. Now, Lansing, Michigan to Buffalo, New York isn't really all that far as the crow flies. Except the crow's not holding weed, and therefore the crow don't have to give a shit about Canadian customs. But that monster protege and the drive-by truckers was holding weed. Therefore, we definitely had to give a shit about Canadian customs. So we had to drive all the way down to Cleveland and then back up to Buffalo, New York. And that's when that snowstorm became a full-out blizzard. They started closing down that interstate left and right all around us, but we couldn't stop because we didn't have no money for a motherfucking hotel room. So we keep going and we keep driving. And we're slipping and we're sliding, and I'm puking in a plastic bag in the back seat. And I'm angry, and I find a pen and a piece of paper, and I write this second verse. 20 miles an hour in a Pennsylvania blizzard. It don't take a wizard to figure this out. North in the summer, south in the winter. Buffalo, December, kind of dumbass shit is that. Stomach's turning acid and the smell really bad. The stomach's turning acid and the smell really bad. But I do have one absolutely beautiful memory from that tour. At the height of the worst of it, we're driving down the road in that monster protege. And I'm feeling so bad, and Cooley's feeling so bad, and everybody's feeling so bad. And Matt Lane, our drummer, starts singing Patches by Clarence Carter. And he's got this big goofy grin on his face, and he's saying, Patches, I'm depending